some falling to their knees in awe. Ezenwanyi's eyes glowed as it gazed upon the crowd, then fixed its gaze on Nkem. "Amara is under my protection," the python spirit's voice echoed through the square. "She is a force for good, chosen to guide and protect this village. Those who seek to harm her will face my wrath." Nkem's face drained of color, and he stumbled back, his followers shrinking away in fear. Amara, the Python Girl, in the heart of Nigeria, nestled between the undulating hills of Enugu State, lay a village called Ankpologu. It was a quaint, serene place where the nights were filled with the symphony of crickets and the days with the laughter of children. The villagers, mostly farmers, led simple lives, bound by tradition and their deep connection to the land. Amara was a young girl of 16, known throughout Ankpologu for her unusual beauty and intelligence. Her skin was the color of rich mahogany, and her eyes, dark and deep, seemed to hold secrets as ancient as the village itself. Amara lived with her grandmother, Mama Ngozi, in a modest hut on the outskirts of the village. Her parents had died in a tragic accident when she was just a baby, leaving Mama Ngozi as her only family. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the village, Amara returned home from the stream, carrying a clay pot of water on her head. As she approached the hut, she noticed Mama Ngozi sitting by the fire, her wrinkled face etched with worry. "Amara, come sit with me," Mama Ngozi called, her voice trembling slightly. Amara set down the pot and hurried to her grandmother's side. "What is it, Mama?" "There is something I must tell you, my child," Mama Ngozi began, her eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "Something about your past." Amara's heart quickened. She had always sensed there was more to her story than what Mama Ngozi had told her. The villagers often whispered about her, calling her Nwanyi Agwo, the Python Girl. "Many years ago," Mama Ngozi continued, "when you were just a baby, a great storm swept through the village. It was unlike anything we had ever seen. The winds howled like spirits in torment, and the rain fell in torrents. That night a strange event occurred. A massive python, larger than any seen before, was found coiled around your crib, but instead of harming you, it seemed to be protecting you." Amara gasped. She had heard tales of the python spirit, but she never imagined she might be connected to it. "The villagers were terrified," Mama Ngozi said. "They believed it was an omen, that you were a child of the gods. Some feared you, others revered you. But your parents loved you dearly and believed you were a blessing. They tried to keep your true nature a secret, but fate had other plans." Amara's mind raced with questions. "What happened to my parents?" "They died in a fire," Mama Ngozi said, her voice breaking. "Many believed it was the work of dark forces trying to take you. I have done my best to protect you ever since." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because," Mama Ngozi said, "I fear that the time has come for you to understand your true nature. There have been signs, strange occurrences in the village, animals behaving oddly, crops failing unexpectedly. The elders believe it is connected to you." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. She had always felt different, but she never imagined it was because of a connection to a mystical python spirit. She took a deep breath, trying to absorb the weight of her grandmother's words. "What must I do?" she asked. "Tomorrow, we will visit the shrine of the python spirit," Mama Ngozi said. "There, you will seek guidance and perhaps find answers to the questions that have haunted you all these years." As Amara lay in bed that night, sleep eluded her. She stared at the thatched roof, her mind awhirl with thoughts of python spirits and the mysterious destiny that awaited her. Little did she know her journey was just beginning, and the hidden truth about the village's python girl would soon be revealed in ways she could never have imagined. The first light of dawn crept into the hut, casting a golden glow over the sleeping figure of Amara. She awoke with a sense of purpose, the words of her grandmother still echoing in her mind. Today, she would seek answers at the shrine of Ezenwanyi, the revered python spirit. Mama Ngozi had already prepared for their journey. She handed Amara a small bundle of offerings, kola nuts, alligator pepper and palm wine. "These are for Ezenwanyi," she explained, a sign of respect and a plea for guidance. As they made their way through the village, the early morning air was cool and fresh. The path to the shrine wound through dense forest, the trees whispering ancient secrets as they passed. Amara felt a mix of apprehension and excitement. She had never been to the shrine before, but she had heard tales of its mystical power. The shrine itself was a simple structure made of mud and thatch, nestled in a clearing. It was surrounded by a low wall, and inside, a large python statue coiled around a tree trunk dominated the space. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the sounds of nature. Elderly priestess, her hair white as chalk and her eyes sharp as an eagle's, greeted them at the entrance. She was known as Adaiz, the keeper of the shrine. "Welcome, Mama Ngozi and Amara," Adaiz said, her voice strong despite her age. "I have been expecting you." Amara's eyes widened. "You knew we were coming?" "Ezenwanyi speaks to me," Adaiz replied with a knowing smile. "Come, let us begin." They knelt before the statue, and Mama Ngozi placed the offerings at its base. Adaiz began to chant, her voice rising and falling in a rhythmic cadence. The air seemed to shimmer, and Amara felt a strange energy enveloping her. "Great is Nwanyi," Adaiz intoned. "We come before you seeking wisdom and guidance for this child of destiny. Reveal to us the path she must take." The flames of the incense danced, casting eerie shadows. Amara closed her eyes, focusing on the priestess's words. Suddenly, she felt a warm, almost tangible presence around her. It was as if the python spirit itself was wrapping her in a protective embrace. "Amara!" A voice echoed in her mind, soft yet powerful. "You are the chosen one, a bridge between the mortal and the spirit world. Your destiny is intertwined with the fate of this village." Amara's heart pounded. "What must I do?" she asked, her thoughts directed towards the voice. "Embrace your true nature," the voice replied. "The power within you is both a gift and a responsibility. You must learn to harness it, to protect those you love and to heal the land." The presence faded, and Amara opened her eyes, her heart still racing. Adaiz was watching her closely. "Ezenwanyi has spoken to you," the priestess said. "You have a great power within you, Amara, but power alone is not enough. You must seek knowledge and understanding." Mama Ngozi placed a comforting hand on Amara's shoulder. "We will help you, my child. You are not alone in this." Over the next few days, Amara began her training under Adaiz's guidance. She learned about the ancient rituals, the herbs and plants with healing properties, and the ways of communicating with the spirits. She practiced meditation, connecting with the python spirit, and slowly began to understand her abilities. As word spread through the village, the reactions were mixed. Some were fearful, remembering the old superstitions about the Python Girl. Others were curious, intrigued by the idea of having a powerful protector in their midst. One evening, as Amara was practicing by the river, a group of children approached her hesitantly. Among them was Chidi, a boy her age who had always been kind to her despite the whispers. "Amara," Chidi said, his voice full of awe, "is it true that you can talk to spirits?" Amara smiled, feeling a newfound confidence. "Yes, Chidi, but it's not just about talking to them. It's about understanding them and using their wisdom to help our village." The children gathered around her, their fear replaced by fascination. Amara realized that this was her first step in earning the villagers' trust. She had to show them that her power was not something to be feared, but something that could bring them hope and prosperity. As the sun set over Nkpologu, Amara felt a sense of peace. She still had much to learn and many challenges to face, but for the first time, she felt that she was on the right path. The hidden truth about the village's Python Girl was beginning to unfold. And with it, a new chapter in the history of Nkpolog was being written. As Amara continued her training, the days turned into weeks, and the villagers began to notice the changes in her. She moved with a grace and confidence that belied her age, and her eyes seemed to glow with a new intensity. Under Adaiz's tutelage, she learned to harness her connection to Ezenwanyi, using it to heal the sick and bring prosperity to the village. Despite the growing acceptance, there were still those who harbored doubts and fears. One such person was Nkem, a local hunter known for his stubbornness and skepticism of anything that strayed from tradition. Nkem had never been comfortable with the idea of a girl wielding such power, and he often voiced his concerns to anyone who would listen. One fateful evening, as the village gathered for a festival celebrating the harvest, Nkem approached the elders. His voice was loud and filled with disdain. "Elders of Nankpolog, how long will we allow this girl to play with forces beyond our understanding? She claims to bring us prosperity, but I see only danger." The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement while others cast uneasy glances at Amara, who stood with Mama Ngozi and Adayez near the ceremonial fire. Elder Chukwudi, a respected figure known for his wisdom, raised his hand to silence the crowd. "Nkem, your concerns are noted, but Amara has proven herself to be a blessing to this village. Our crops flourish and our sick are healed. What more proof do you need of her positive influence?" Nkem shook his head, his expression grim. "I demand a test. Let Izenwanyi show us a sign that this girl is truly chosen. If she fails, she must leave the village." A hush fell over the crowd. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. She looked at Adayez, who nodded reassuringly. "Very well," Elder Chukwudi said. "A test it shall be. Amara, do you accept this challenge?" Amara stepped forward, her voice steady. "I accept." The test was to take place at dawn. The villagers gathered at the edge of the forest, where a sacred grove known to be the dwelling place of Izenwanyi lay. The air was thick with tension as Amara, accompanied by Mama Ngozi and Adayeze, stood before the ancient trees. Adayeze spoke softly, her voice carrying an undercurrent of authority. "Amara, you must enter the grove alone. Seek out Izenwanyi and ask for a sign. Trust in your bond with the spirit." Amara nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She stepped forward, the dense foliage closing around her like a living entity. The whispers of the villagers faded, replaced by the sounds of the forest, birds calling, leaves rustling, and the distant murmur of a stream. She walked deeper into the grove, her senses heightened. She could feel the presence of the python spirit, a comforting warmth that guided her steps. Finally, she reached a clearing where a large ancient tree stood, its roots twisting like serpents through the earth. Kneeling before the tree, Amara closed her eyes and whispered a prayer to Izenwanyi. "Great Spirit, I seek your guidance. Show me a sign that I may prove my worth to the people of Ankpolog." The forest grew silent, and for a moment, Amara feared her plea would go unanswered. Then, she felt a surge of energy, and when she opened her eyes, she saw a massive python emerging from the roots of the tree. Its scales glistened in the dappled sunlight, and its eyes were filled with an ancient wisdom. The python slithered towards her, and Amara remained still, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and awe. The snake coiled around her, its presence both intimidating and protective. Then it raised its head, staring into her eyes. In that moment, Amara felt a deep connection, as if the spirit of Izenwanyi was speaking directly to her soul. She understood that she was not just a girl with a gift. She was a guardian, a bridge between the human and spirit worlds. The python uncoiled itself and vanished back into the roots of the tree. Amara stood, a newfound determination in her heart. She made her way back to the edge of the grove, where the villagers awaited her return. When she emerged from the forest, the crowd gasped. A single large python scale, shimmering with iridescent colors, was clutched in her hand. She held it up for all to see. "Izenwanyi has given me this sign," Amara announced. "I am the Python Girl, chosen to protect and guide this village." The elders nodded in approval, and even Nkem, though still wary, could not deny the power of the sign. The villagers cheered, their doubts replaced by a renewed faith in Amara's abilities. From that day forward, Amara's role as the Python Girl was solidified. She continued her training, delving deeper into the mysteries of the spirit world and using her gifts to bring prosperity and protection to Ankpolog. The bond between her and Ezenwanyi grew stronger, and the village thrived under her care. Despite the newfound acceptance, not all was well in Ankpolog. Beneath the surface of celebration and prosperity, shadows of doubt and fear lingered. Nkem, though silenced by the sign from Ezenwanyi, still harbored deep reservations. He began to gather like-minded individuals, sowing seeds of mistrust among them. One evening, as the village was enveloped in the tranquility of dusk, Nkem met with a small group in his hut. The dim light of a lantern cast flickering shadows on their faces, highlighting the tension in the room. "We must remain vigilant," Nkem said, his voice low and urgent. "The girl may have shown us a sign, but we cannot rely solely on the whims of spirits. We need to protect ourselves." Ikemefuna, a young farmer, nodded. "What do you suggest, Nkem? How do we protect ourselves against something we don't understand?" Nkem's eyes gleamed with determination. "We must find a way to diminish her influence. If she truly is the cause of our recent prosperity, then we must find a way to control it ourselves without relying on her." The group murmured in agreement, their fear of the unknown fueling their resolve. They began to devise a plan, one that would challenge Amara's abilities and test the true extent of her connection to Izenwanyi. Meanwhile, Amara continued her training, unaware of the growing conspiracy. She spent her days learning from Ades and Mama Ngozi, her nights filled with vivid dreams of the python spirit. She felt a deep sense of duty, but also a growing unease. There was a disturbance in the village, a subtle shift in the balance that she could not yet understand. One night, as she meditated by the river, seeking guidance from Izenwanyi, she was visited by a vision. The python spirit appeared before her, its eyes filled with concern. "Amara," the spirit spoke, its voice resonating in her mind. "There are those who seek to undermine you. They fear what they do not understand. You must be cautious." Amara's heart tightened with worry. "What should I do, Great Spirit? How can I protect the village and myself?" "Trust in your abilities and in those who truly support you," Ezenwanyi replied. "But be prepared for challenges. Not all battles are fought with strength alone. Some require wisdom and patience." The vision faded, leaving Amara with a heavy heart. She knew she had to be vigilant, but she also understood that fear and mistrust could not be dispelled with force. She needed to win over the hearts and minds of her people, to show them that her power was a blessing, not a curse. The following days were filled with a tense anticipation. Amara could sense the undercurrents of doubt, the suspicious glances and the whispered conversations. She tried to reach out, to bridge the gap between herself and those who doubted her, but the task was not an easy one. One morning, as she was helping a farmer heal his sick cattle, Nkem approached her, his expression inscrutable. "Amara," he said, his tone surprisingly polite. "I have a request." She looked at him warily. "What is it, Nkem?" "I've heard that you have the power to heal not just people but the land itself," he said. "There's a part of my farm that has been barren for years. No matter what I do, nothing grows there. If you truly have the power of Izenwanyi, perhaps you could help me." Amara sensed a trap, but saw an opportunity as well. "I will do my best, Nkem. Show me the place." They walked to Nkem's farm, followed by a small group of curious villagers. The barren patch was indeed desolate, a stark contrast to the fertile fields surrounding it. Amara knelt on the dry earth, placing her hands on the ground and closed her eyes. She reached out with her mind, seeking the spirit of the land. She felt the presence of Ezenwanyi guiding her and channeled her energy into the earth. Moments passed, and the villagers watched in silence, their breath held in collective anticipation. Slowly, green shoots began to emerge from the soil, growing rapidly into lush plants. Gasps of amazement rippled through the crowd. Amara stood, her face serene but her heart racing. She had succeeded, but she knew this was just a temporary reprieve. Nkem nodded, though his eyes still held a trace of skepticism. "Thank you, Amara. Perhaps I was wrong about you." As the villagers dispersed, Amara felt a glimmer of hope. But she also knew that true acceptance would take more than a single act of magic. She had to continue to prove herself, to show that her power was a force for good. That night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts drifted to the future. She knew there were more challenges ahead, but she was determined to face them head-on. With Ezenwanyi's guidance and the support of her loved ones, Amara felt ready to confront whatever trials awaited her. In the weeks that followed, Amara's influence in the village grew. She healed the sick, blessed the fields, and mediated disputes with a wisdom beyond her years. Yet despite her efforts, the seeds of doubt sown by Nkem and his followers had taken root in the hearts of some villagers. Nkem, though outwardly polite, had not abandoned his scheme. He continued to gather his allies in secret, and their plan began to take a more sinister shape. One evening, under the cover of darkness, they met in a secluded part of the forest. Nkem, Ikemefuna whispered, "What if our plan fails? What if Ezenwani truly protects her?" His eyes narrowed. "We will not fail. We need to show the village that her power is dangerous and uncontrollable. Only then will they turn against her." They discussed their strategy late into the night, their hushed voices blending with the rustling leaves and nocturnal sounds of the forest. Their goal was clear: to discredit Amara and force her to leave Onkpologo. The next day, Nkem put his plan into motion. He approached Amara with a fabricated tale of a neighboring village suffering from a mysterious plague. "Their children are dying," he said, his voice filled with feigned concern. "They need your help." Amara, always ready to assist those in need, agreed to accompany him. They set off towards the supposed afflicted village, but as they ventured deeper into the forest, Amara sensed something was wrong. The path they took was unfamiliar, and a feeling of unease settled over her. "Nkem, are you sure this is the right way?" Amara asked, her eyes scanning the dense trees. "Trust me," Nkem replied, his tone clipped. "We're almost there." As they reached a clearing, a group of Nkem's followers emerged from the shadows, blocking their path. Amara's heart pounded as she realized she had walked into a trap. "Nkem, what is the meaning of this?" she demanded, trying to mask her fear with authority. "You have fooled the villagers long enough," Nkem sneered. "Your power is a threat to our way of life. We cannot allow you to continue." Before Amara could react, they grabbed her and bound her hands. Nkem stepped forward, his face twisted with determination. "We will expose you for the danger you are. Tonight the village will see your true nature." They dragged Amara back to Onkpolog, ignoring her protests. As they entered the village square, the sight of Amara bound and at the mercy of Nkem's followers drew a crowd. Whispers and gasps of shock filled the air. "Elders!" Nkem called out. "We have brought Amara here to prove once and for all that her powers are not a blessing but a curse. She has been casting dark spells bringing misfortune upon us." Amara struggled against her bonds, her eyes pleading with the villagers. "This is not true. You know me. I have only ever tried to help." Elder Chukwudi stepped forward, his expression grave. "Nkem, these are serious accusations. What proof do you have?" Nkem produced a small carved idol from his pocket, holding it aloft for all to see. "We found this in her possession. It is a symbol of dark magic." Amara's eyes widened. "I have never seen that before. It's a lie," the villagers murmured, torn between their trust in Amara and the fear Nkem's words had stirred. Elder Chukwudi turned to Adeze and Mama Ngozi, who had pushed their way to the front of the crowd. "Mama Ngozi, Adeze, what do you make of this?" he asked. Mama Ngozi's eyes blazed with anger. "This is a setup. Nkem has gone too far." Adeze nodded, her voice calm but firm. "Amara has always acted with purity of heart. This idol is a trick to discredit her." The tension in the square was palpable. Amara closed her eyes, reaching out to Izenwani in silent prayer. She felt the familiar warmth of the python spirit enveloping her, giving her strength. "Elders," Amara said, her voice steady despite her fear, "let me prove my innocence. Allow me to call upon Izenwani and reveal the truth." The elders conferred briefly, then nodded. "Very well," Elder Chukwudi said. "You may proceed." The villagers watched in hushed anticipation as Adeze and Mama Ngozi untied Amara's hands. She knelt on the ground, closing her eyes and focusing all her energy on her connection with Izenwani. A hush fell over the square as Amara began to chant softly. The air grew thick with a palpable energy, and the ground beneath her seemed to tremble. Suddenly, a brilliant light erupted from the earth, and the form of a massive python, shimmering with ethereal light, appeared before them. The villagers gasped, some falling to their knees in awe. Izenwani's eyes glowed as it gazed upon the crowd, then fixed its gaze on Nkem. "Amara is under my protection," the python spirit's voice echoed through the square. She is a force for good, chosen to guide and protect this village. Those who seek to harm her will face my wrath." Nkem's face drained of color, and he stumbled back, his followers shrinking away in fear. The python spirit turned its gaze to Amara, a look of pride in its eyes. "Amara," Ezenwani said, "you have proven your strength and purity. Continue your path, and remember that you are never alone." With that, the spirit vanished, leaving the villagers in stunned silence. Amara stood, her heart filled with gratitude and determination. Elder Chukwudi stepped forward, his voice firm. "Nkem, you have endangered our village with your lies and deceit. You must leave Ankpolog immediately and never return." Nkem, his spirit broken, nodded and fled the village, his followers scattering in his wake. The villagers turned to Amara, their expressions filled with awe and respect. "We are sorry, Amara," Elder Chukwudi said. "We allowed fear to cloud our judgment. Please forgive us." Amara smiled, her heart swelling with hope. "I forgive you. Together, we will make Nkpologu stronger than ever." That night, as the village celebrated their newfound unity, Amara stood by the river, gazing at the stars. She felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that she had proven herself and that her bond with Ezenwani was unbreakable. In the weeks following Nkem's exile, Nkpolog began to thrive more than ever. The crops grew bountiful, the livestock flourished, and the air was filled with a renewed sense of community and harmony. Amara's reputation as the Python Girl was no longer just a title, but a symbol of hope and unity for the villagers. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, and press the notification button for more interesting stories. See you in the next story.